Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a viral video that's making some pretty big claims that 10 common food items could actually be on their way out, and it all comes down to a few very controversial ingredients. So let's just start with this question. Imagine walking into your local grocery store and, poof, some of the most familiar products are just gone. That's pretty much the wild scenario at the heart of the claims we're going to unpack today. So where is all this coming from? Well, our source for this explainer is a super popular video from Dr. Eric Berg. In it, he claims that certain foods, which he says are being targeted by figures like RFK Jr., are actually in the process of being banned. So we're just going to walk through the main arguments he makes in that video. Okay, let's dive in. All right, so first up, what are we even talking about here? The video points to a group of specific chemical additives. Now, these aren't foods themselves, but they're ingredients you'd find in a ton of the processed foods we eat every day.
Okay, so here they are. The video lists these four and basically says they're toxic colorings and chemicals that have, zero health benefits. For instance, he points to titanium dioxide, which is used to make foods look whiter, and claims it's already been banned in France over concerns it might cause DNA damage.
And this is where things get really interesting, because a huge part of the argument is this massive difference in regulation from country to country. So let's take brominated vegetable oil, BVO for short. The video calls it a flame retardant, which is used to keep the citrus flavoring from separating in some sodas. And get this, while it's allowed here in the US, the video points out that it's banned in Europe, Japan, and India. And it's not just BVO. The video makes a really similar case against potassium bromate. It's an ingredient used to make dough fluffier, but it's also identified as a possible human carcinogen. So the bottom line here, the big takeaway from the source, is that while it's still used in the US, it's apparently been banned in about 30 other countries. Okay, so we've talked about additives, but the video argues it goes way deeper than that. The focus isn't just on these weird little ingredients, but on the very building blocks of what it calls ultra-processed junk food. So what exactly is an ultra-processed food, according to this video? Well, it gives a really specific definition. It's not about all processed food, but foods that are built almost entirely from these three specific subsidized ingredients. And to really show you the scale of this, get this. The source claims that for the average person, seed oils alone make up a whopping 25 to 30% of all calories. The argument he makes is that these oils actually become part of our cells, creating what the video describes as a state of constant inflammation. You've probably heard of this next one. High fructose corn syrup is another huge target in the video. It's described as a heavily subsidized, genetically modified product that comes from corn, and the source directly links it to some really serious health issues. So you might be thinking, how am I supposed to know what has this stuff in it? Well, to help people figure that out, the video's creator actually promotes a free app. The idea is simple. You scan a barcode on any product, and it gives you a junk food score based on how much of that synthetic sugar, starch, and seed oil is inside. Okay, so all of this brings us to the big why, right? If these ingredients are as controversial as the video claims, why are they everywhere? Well, the video argues that the answer is all tangled up in the history of our food regulations and economic policies. So the video lays out this specific timeline to explain how we got here. It says that back in 1958, something called the Delaney Clause was passed to keep cancer-causing stuff out of our food. But then, the source claims an act passed in 1996 pretty much weakened that original rule, creating loopholes that let these chemicals come right back into the system. And it's not just about health regulations. The video also makes a big economic argument. It claims that taxpayers get caught in this crazy three-step cycle. First, subsidizing the crops used to make junk food. Second, funding programs like SNAP, which can be used to buy these products. And third, paying for the healthcare costs that come from it all through things like Medicaid. The whole point here is that according to the source, taxpayers are essentially footing the bill 3 different times. Now, this next point is absolutely crucial to the video's entire argument. It's all about a regulatory term called GRAS, which stands for Generally Recognized as Safe. The source claims this rule has created a massive loophole. It basically allows food companies to test their own new ingredients for safety and decide for themselves if they're safe without having to tell the FDA or get any independent third-party testing done. And that really brings us to what the video presents as the heart of the problem, summed up perfectly in this quote. The assertion is pretty clear.
If you let the industry police itself, there's a huge conflict of interest. So, after breaking down all these claims from the source video, we're left with this huge central question. When it comes to what's on our plates, where do we draw the line between our personal freedom to choose what we eat and the government's role in regulating the entire food supply? And that's where we'll leave it for this explainer.